I mentioned before these little tabs. Yeah, these little tabs right here. Let me get my hand in there. I made these little tabs, and these, and so there's some more in here that tie my wire looms to, and also my vents, ductwork. There's a couple right there with the straps I made. There's one behind there you can't see, to hang my ductwork and hang my wiring on and things. So I've got two more. Basically, they're just little brackets I bend up and weld a 1/4-inch bolt on the back. And I put primer on there, of course, because I can't prime the back side once I get it on there. So all I'll do, I've got a spot for two more. Put one up here for my upper AC hose, and I'm going to put one down here for the wiring. You can't see because of my hand. The wiring is going to come across. This one I could have probably left out, but since I'm doing it, I'm going to go ahead and just do it. Not going to film welding those in. I mean, it's just two little brackets. You know, weld them in right there and right there. No biggie. So that's just a quick update. After that, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I was going to hook everything up again electrically with all my duct work, man, and vents, just for the heck of it. But I got to think about it. I've already had this heater box, the evaporator, hooked up one time, and everything works. So I got the controls stripped out. I had to put the controls back in there. So I'm not going to do that. That's just more time to do that I really don't want to spend. I don't need to. So I'm very close to the point of stripping all the wiring out and getting the ductwork out. Basically getting the cab cleaned out, ready to paint. I do have a couple more projects I got to do on the cab still. I think I mentioned several times. I'm putting 3-point seat belts, or lap belts in here. So I finally got those ordered. I got to, make the mounting point over here, and then up here. Probably what I'll wind up doing, I think I'm going to do, is cut a section out here. Not sure exactly, but I'm probably going to wind up cutting some of this out, bending up a 16 or 14 gauge something plate, put back in there and weld it in, and then put this back. More than likely, I think that's how I'm going to do it. I may change my mind. I might try 1/8-inch plate or something and put in there. I hadn't decided exactly yet, but I got to do something to reinforce the upper bolt, obviously. Another project I forgot about. This is what the previous owner had done to the speaker grill. I didn't do that, so don't go blaming me for it. It was like that when I got the truck. I had ideas of trying to make a panel that kind of simulates this with my mill. I got a small mill. I could go in there and mill out these slots. It'd be a long, slow, tedious process because I've got a small mill, a little mini mill, and cutting steel on that thing is very slow because you can't cut a whole lot at once. It would take many hours to make this piece. So I think I've just about decided just to patch the whole thing in. There's not going to be a speaker up here, which is what this was originally was. I think it's a speaker. I just think I'm going to patch the whole thing in and be done with it. If you guys that are purists don't like that, I'm sorry. Just think that's how I'm going to handle it. I've also finally ordered 2 tweeters for my stereo system that I had originally intended to put in the 2 original defrost holes that, of course, now I'm not using because I've got my own defrost vents put in here. I got one here and the one over here that I've put in. But I got to thinking, right here in the middle is not a great place for a set of tweeters. You want them to spread out. I guess your stage, they call it, your ear stage or whatever. They work much better over here in the corners. So I think what I'm going to do is mount them somewhere in the corner. They're about 2-inch diameter bezel, 1.5 to 2 inch. I forget exactly the exact measurement. So I'm going to try to pick a spot over here in the corner that's mostly flat, which will have to be right along in here somewhere, and then put them in there. And if it winds up being that they don't fit right because of the curve of the dash, I may weld in a flat piece or something, but I haven't. Obviously, I don't have them yet. But I got to do that. You know, one will be over there. Of course, the other one will be over here. And this side I think is actually a lot flatter than that side. This side's probably going to be way easier to do. And as far as metal work goes, I got to weld up a hole I put here when my first attempt at wire loom. I changed the way I'm doing it, so now it's going to be in this hole. So I got to weld that hole up. I finally ordered the little bumpers for my glove box. I got to finish fitting that, but that fitment's probably 90% done. So I think I do want to figure out a dome light. I can't remember how the dome light works in this truck. I guess it goes in the headliner, because there's definitely no spot for it to be here. So I want a dome light. Oh, that's it, dome light, and I got to put 2 dome light switches in here. Figure out what kind I want, the Ford style that just pushes in, or the Chevrolet style that screws in. I got to decide on that too, and put those in, and figure out the dome light, the situation. I wouldn't mind welding a metal bracket up there, so I know where the dome light's going to mount every time. But I've done body work on the roof, so I could weld this rail, but if I weld to the roof, I'm going to ruin my filler, the work that I've done. I really don't want to do that. So I could weld to this pinch rail that comes in probably without tearing up anything, filler wise. I don't know. I had to think about that. I mean, I could screw it or do something stupid like that, but I don't know. Or just not do anything and wait on a headliner. I don't know yet. I got to get online and do some research. And I could also put a dome light in the center, just to get a round one from some other style and mount it right there. So like I say, I need to get on the internet and look at some options and see what's available, what to do. But I do certainly want a dome light. And if I can go with the factory one, I definitely will do it. Just got to figure out what it's going to be. But again, as far as fab work goes, that's about it. I am extremely close to having this cab ready to tear down and try to get some paint on it maybe this fall. I still don't think I'm going to make it. Where is that? Oh, hang on, this light is doing crazy. I still don't think I'm going to make it, but I'm almost to the point now where I might be able to at least give it a shot and see if I might be able to make it. So anyway, I guess that's it for now. It was just a quick update. Nothing really major to show. One day when I get to it, I know I need to go over all the wiring I've done on this truck. I've changed the wiring significantly. This was a painless harness I bought. Now it's been over 10 years ago since I bought this harness. So I forget what's I think it's an 18 circuit, 20 circuit. I don't even remember that anymore. But I changed it a lot. I've added relays, and when I get everything out, and I need to do some diagrams and stuff, because I know most of you guys don't understand wiring. You're scared of it, and I understand that. I was an electronics tech for 20 plus years, so it doesn't bother me. I understand how everything works, so that's why I've been able to modify mine. I've done a lot of modification of this thing that I've built my own harnesses and terminated my own relays and lots of stuff that the average guy doesn't know how to do. So at some point I hope to be able to go over all that stuff with y'all and you guys, and so try to maybe one day save you some money on some stuff, because those little relay kits you buy, they overcharge you a bunch for those things. I mean, they gouge you big time. So anyway, that's I guess that's it for now. All right, I drilled the holes for my tweeters. Well, hang on. I got some JBL. Now, I do know about audio, and I'm a bit of an audio snob, but I'm no audio expert. I can't tell you, this brand stinks and this brand's the best and yada yada yada. JBL. I've used JBL speakers in live. I play live in bands. Used to use JBL stuff for years. I found these. Everybody said they were really good. I got JBL tweezers. Also have some JBL, 6x9s or 6x whatever they are. Anyway, so if you don't like JBLs, you can tell me, but don't be mean about it, because just don't be a snob, or don't be ugly about it. You can be an audio snob if you want to, but just don't be ugly. Anyway, so I got these tweeters. A 3/4 inch tweeter, but the housing took an 1.5 inch hole. They're small, so I drilled my holes. I got one here on this side, and got the other one on this side. I tried to pick a spot that was basically flat, so that the bezel doesn't wobble, and that's why I kind of come up with this spot right here. Anything further over, the dash really starts to crown, and it would have wobbled a lot. It's pretty flat right here. It's not flat, but it's flat enough. So I just took the measurements and mirrored them over here on this side. This side's good and flat right here. Flat enough. So anyway, I got my holes for my tweeters drilled. I still have to fix this hole. I have decided just to go ahead and patch in the whole thing. I mentioned before I was going to try to reproduce this right here. I just don't have the gumption to do it. I'm just not. So I'm just going to fill it in solid. You purists out there, I'm sorry. That's just what I'm going to do. So I am now actually beginning to tear the cab down. I've got all my duct work done. I've got my custom made defrost duct made. I'll show you that in another video because it's not out here right now. I put I think I showed it before. I added my other two brackets for wiring and hoses right there and right there. So I've got plenty of places to clamp stuff down. I've got two under here I don't even remember putting on, but I did. So I'm starting to tear the dash down, starting to tear everything out of here. So I am still got to finish the glove box door. My parts haven't come in yet. The little rubber bumpers, rubber baby buggy. Never mind. Don't even go there. Still waiting for the parts for the ashtray bumpers, so I can finish fitting that, which is close. It fits very close. I just got to get the bumpers in there, get the exact fit. But I can still finish tearing out the rest of pull the evaporator out, pull all the hoses out. I can pull everything out but pretty much the ashtray. And I got the glove box lid sitting aside. Still got to put my seat belts in. They're on order. So I mentioned before I got to put upper mounts for the upper seat belts. Put upper mounts for the lap belts in. But I'm starting to tear this thing down. I am getting extremely close. Oh, I still got to weld up a couple of holes. That one there, and there's a mate to the other side. Just small stuff. I am extremely close to being able to get this cab ready for paint. And if I play my cards right, I might be able to paint it this fall. Here are the hose adapters I 3D printed for the duct hose. Here's the 2-inch vent I was showing. It fits into here. And I printed a hose adapter. It goes, I even got the threads in it. Threads on the back of the adapter down to 2-inch hose. I'm running 2-inch hose. Vintage Air intends you to run these vents with 2.5-inch hose, but I'm running 2-inch. That's just the way I wanted to lay my duct work out. So I could have used their 2-inch coupling and then put a 2.5 to 2 adapter on the back, but since I got a 3D printer, I decided I'd make my own. So that's what I made up. So just goes in the back. It's real easy to put on. Even blind, all you do is, and my head's going to be in the way. You just put it in here, flush up to the dash, and then spin it in. And then once you get it tight, let's see, where's that? Once you get it tight, you can't see, you spin the rest of the way from the back side. And that's my vent for that side. Alright, the cab is took apart and 99% ready to be get ready for paint work. Finally, after all these years. Wow. I started working on this cab in 2012, I think. 10 years ago. I've got old pictures of this cab. I'll try to post a couple. Wow, it's come a long way, Charlie Brown. I got a few small things left to do. I've got to weld up a hole here. There's a hole on the other side. That was my first attempt at putting wire looms in the doors, and I wound up changing to something else. When I sandblasted this cab, I sandblasted everything except this part of the A-pillar where you see the red paint. Basically, that was because when I put this cab on the rotisserie, I made a jig that hung it between the door hinges, the door hinge and the rear striker pocket. So the only area I couldn't get to when I was sandblasting is this area in red, which is where the plate was for the rotisserie bracket that I made. I was going to sandblast this last remaining bit, but I just don't feel like sandblasting. I've got this cab. It's taken me all these years to get 90%, 95% of the sand and grit out of this cab. Now I don't want to go putting it back in here again. And it's not a very big area, so I'm going to mechanically strip it with a die grinder disc. And if I have to, I'll put some paint stripper in the little cracks and crevices if I can't get to them with a wire brush or whatever. This little area's got to be stripped. That's easy. That's just a die grinder disc, a 2-inch or 3-inch disc. So I've got to do that, welding up holes in a couple of small blasted areas to finish stripping. My seat belts came in today, so I do have to start working on those. My initial thought, let's see light. Well, can you see that corner? My initial thought is just to cut completely out, you know, all the way up. I was originally going to cut out a square, and I may still do a square. If I cut it out all the way up, I'm liable to lose the shape and the structure in that corner. So I actually sitting here thinking about it. I probably will just cut out a square big enough to put a reinforcement in behind there. I want to make a plate. I'm going to try 1/8-inch steel first, if I can bend it around the curve. I know I can with some heat. I've got a piece of pipe. If you guys are familiar with what a pipe anvil is, I got a piece of, I think, 8-inch pipe out in my back 40, or back 1 as I call it, that I'm going to use to eventually one day make a pipe anvil. It would be about the right diameter to try to bend this inner curve right here. But being 1/8 inch, I'd have to tack weld it to the pipe and then bend it around with a torch. And I don't got no, listen to me. I don't have any problem doing that. So that's the next and last major fabrication piece left to do on this cab, is this upper seat belt mounts. The bottom ones will just be a matter of drilling a hole and then putting a plate on the back side and reinforcing it when I turn the cab upside down again. Same thing I have to do for my seat belt, for my bucket seat mounts. I've drilled new mounting holes for my seat belts that now are just holes. I've got to weld. I got to make plates and reinforcements and weld them to the bottom of the cab when the cab's upside down. And then, the task I'm about to start. And here's the front of the firewall, all exposed. I mean, you've seen it before, but there it is in its naked glory. Woo. I do have to pull the hood hinges out. I mentioned one time before in a previous video, there's a trick you can do when you're lining doors up. You drill a hole through the door and the hinge and put an 1/8 inch. In this case, I have a piece of 1/8 inch welding rod to use as a line-up pin. I have not done the inner hinges yet because, as you can see, they're all the way in the back. Now I could do it out here, but that's going to show. I'm going to try to do it in the back, which I should be able to do. You can't see. I've got a long, 1/8 inch drill bit. Drill one hole back through there and then line it up that way, so I don't have to have holes out here on the outside. The outside would be easier to use, but I don't have 2 holes sitting there. I don't want to do it that way. So I do have to drill one hole for each hinge. I do have to do that. That's minor. Here, I actually had to move the door striker in. Obviously, you all missed the saga of this passenger door because I wasn't doing YouTube then. This passenger door fit horribly. Horribly. I don't know if this cab has ever been wrecked and repaired. I've never found any collision damage in this cab. So either, and I'm an old body man, if it was here, I'd find it, I'd see it. So either it was painstakingly repaired down to the rocker panel and inner cab corners. I just don't think it ever happened collision wise. Now the bottom of the rocker had been hit one time and drove up, maybe an inch, not a huge amount. That will, you know, shrink a door jamb, because when the metal goes up, the jambs will shrink in a little. But this door fit horribly. I would end up having to cut the door in some ways I don't really want to talk about to get it to fit. And the only way I could get the back of the door to fit right on the latching side, I had to cut the striker plate and move it, I think, in. Looking at it, it looks like I moved it in, because it wouldn't latch. When it was latching, it was still, the striker was too far out, and I couldn't get the latch to close the second latch. You know, you guys know when door latches close, they click once and they click twice to get that firm capture. This door would only capture on the first click. It would never capture on the second click. Not without having to slam the mess out of it. So I wound up cutting the striker out and moving it in so the door could get that second catch. So I just got to weld up. I just got to make little fiddlers and weld that up, you know, here and here. Again, that's easy. Just got to do that. So the other last task I have is filling this hole in the dash, which I'm about to start now. Let's see, glare. Let me cut that light off. Hang on a second. So I showed before, somebody in the history of this truck had done this to this dash. You know what it's for. It's for a speaker. I've already gone in here and straightened back out with all the bent tabs or tangs, whatever you want to call it. I mentioned 2 or 3 times, I'm not going to try to save this. It'd be a disaster. I could go, I guess, try to get on YouTube and find, not YouTube, get on the internet and try to find a used dash and cut this piece out. I even thought about making it one time with my little mill. I've got a mini mill. And I've upgraded my mini mill since then. I've got a little CNC mill now that I could draw it out and cut it. I mean, I guess if I had the time and the gumption, I could do it. But I'm not going to use this speaker position. I've already mentioned I've got little tweeters in the corners, one there, and I'm putting 2 speakers in the doors, which I've already made. And there'll eventually be a subwoofer under the seat or in the back for a modern type stereo. So I don't need this speaker hole. This cab's already customized. I mean, you've seen my center console here, like, hang on, like, you've seen my center console insert that I made. So that's for the upper insert and the lower console. The dash, of course, I've cut for the AC vent. So this cab has been customized for sure. So I'm not losing any sleep over not replacing this vent. So what I'm going to do is cut this out and just put in a solid piece. The thing that I was doing earlier, where's my ruler? I dollied it out. This fingers were all mangled up. I dollied it out flat, best I could, not flat, but it back in shape. And I'm trying to find if this patch is flat. And here, it certainly appears that it's flat. As I come towards the back, again, the metal is still kind of mangled. So there may be some crown, especially as I get to the back. There may be some crown in this. It's still hard to see. I've got what appears to be a definite high spot right here, and then a definite low where this thing was bent that I need to actually dolly up some more. I can feel it really, really big time right here. So if I can make this panel flat and not have to put a compound shape into it, that's the easiest. Rolling it one way is no problem. Just roll it around a piece of pipe or whatever. If I had to put a compound shape in it, that gets tricky to do. You really can't do it by hand. Well, you can, but it's tricky to do it by hand. I could do it with an English wheel, which I don't have yet. I'm getting me an English wheel. I just haven't got it yet. And I could go ahead and go get it to make this if I had to. And if I have to, I will. But I'm really thinking now this panel can actually wind up being flat. And if it had if there was, let's say, less than a 16th of an inch of crown here missing, I could probably build it with filler and not cry over it. Is it the best way to do it? No. Best way to do it would be to get an English wheel and practice on it. So, we'll see. But for now, I'm going to get it cut out and yada, yada, yada. And when I figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to repair it, I'll get back with you. Okay, I have the wiring harness took out of the cab. As you can see, no more wiring harness. So I'll just give you a brief overview of it. When I go back to install it one day, I'll give you a much more detailed explanation. But basically, it's a painless wiring harness. I bought this thing, golly, it had to be over 10 years ago. I bet it's been 15 years ago. Anyway, I've only ever used it, never been used except in this project, so the wires and all, everything's been inside. The wires are still in great shape. There's nothing wrong with them. So it's the style where the fuse block bolts to the firewall from the inside and the wires push through, versus the style you can get styles now where they're the factory style, where it pushes through the firewall and the back wires clamp on like the factory did it. But this is not that style. So anyway, I think it's a 28 circuit, but don't quote me on there. 21, I don't remember. I'll try to look it up one day what exactly it is. But I have heavily modified this harness. All these big wires you see, all but maybe one of them, which is a factory feed. I added a lot of wire. I added all these relays, these and these. This is my windshield wiper delay control module. This is a Ford piece. It's an original Ford, like late 70s or mid 80s intermittent wiper you can add to these trucks. So that's on there. More relays, more relays, more relays. This is the pigtail, the connector for my fuel injection controller. This is connections from my heater, the evaporator core box. More wires, and bunches of wire over here. Basically, on these old style trucks, let me get my ignition switch, or old style cars of any kind, really. Well, you guys know what an ignition switch looks like. You had a three pole or a 3 connector type switch, which is the plug is, I think I took it off, but there it is. And by the way, I was able to find an original, somebody that sells these ignition switch connectors, brand new. This is a brand new one. One day I will also link to that. It took me a while to find them, because the one, my original, was all melted and burned away, as I'm about to explain why. I will go back and get my switch. So here's a Ford style switch. All the older cars use the same basic idea. They had a battery connection, a start and a run, more or less, if I'm remembering it correctly. You cut the switch on for battery, or for the hops, turned all your gauges and everything on, switched power basically. Then when you turn to run, of course, it turns the engine over and cranks the engine. These old cars, most everything that was switched through your ignition switch. As far as current draw, when there was very little current draw, you had gauges and a radio. Brake lights were not switched, your headlights were not switched. And I'm doing this off the top of my head, and I haven't prepared, so if I miss something, don't roast me in the comments. But basically, gauges and radio, if you had a radio, and a few other things probably I'm not thinking about, but basically very low current. This switch can't handle a bunch of current going through it. These contacts will melt. You guys that have had the older cars, you've all had them with this exact piece here melted and burnt. I've got my original in a bucket somewhere. Same goes for the headlight switch, which I do not have over here. It can't draw that much current. And after 10, 20, 30 years of use, they start to melt and they get hot. They get hot first and they melt. And the reason is you're pulling too much current through these switches. And as modern conveniences get added, higher power, big radios and lights, and I'm just trying to think of things off the top of my head. You're adding more and more power to switch through this little switch, and the switch can't handle it. in the modern day vehicle, which is this wiring harness is kind of a replication of, well, you got power windows and power brakes, power brakes, and all the power accessories you can think of. That all cannot be switched by this one little current switch. It's not going to work. It'll melt. So what I've done, I've gone in and I've added relays. And the relay is nothing more than an electrically operated switch. And again, one day I'll draw this out and explain it in much better detail. But basically, a relay is a electrically operated switch. You apply power to the contacts close. Apply power to the coil. The contacts close and switch and power runs through, just like a wall switch. Just instead of flipping it with a wall switch, you're doing it electrically. So I've got different relays here for different circuits. I've got the power circuit, I've got the run circuit, I've got the circuit for alpha. I don't even remember. I got a circuit for my ignition, which is the fuel injection. So basically, all my high power stuff all runs through relays. The only thing the switch in the ignition switch does is turn that stuff on and off. So all the high current stuff that I just said, I'm repeating myself, runs through relays. So again, I know that's a very quick explanation, and most of you are probably lost. And I promise one day I'll come back and I'll explain it in much greater detail. I had to get my whiteboard out and make actual real drawings and all kind of nice stuff. But anyway, that's the wiring harness in an overview. Oh, there's relays for the HVAC, by the way, too. Air conditioner has a relay. There'll be relays for the fans up front. There'll be all kind of more additions I have to make to this thing. But that's the basic gist of it, is you can't switch all this high power stuff to a little ignition switch. I'm probably going to even add relays for the headlights because once again, that headlight switch is not really built to carry that kind of current for that long of a time. It'll do it, and many of them from the factory did it for many, many years, and there's some out there right now still doing it. But anyway, that's my wiring harness 10,000 foot overview. So as usual, thanks for looking in. If you like what you're seeing, click the like button. Man. So as usual, thanks for looking in. If you like what you're seeing, hit the like button. Do the subscribe thing, all the things you do. And hope you'll come back with some more. And I will catch you on the flip side. Cookster out.